I'm from a tiny, tiny country town. And, you know, Dad, we were very isolated, my father and my mother. My dad had come back from the Vietnam War, so they had troubles. They thought they'd go, they found some little gas station. And Dad was kind of like a world builder, funny that. And so it wasn't just that we were in a gas station and a farm and we were in the cinema. He would have like artists come and live with us. And now I look back, it was kind of like a caravanserai of astonishment. I mean, it was wackadoo, like, you know, he invented stuff, and I had sold tropical fish shop. My brother did horticulture, and then I had a radio station. I had one record, actually, because I'd found a record player, and it was Johnny Farnham's "One is the Loneliest Number." You know, and I was like 7. One is the well, here we are, station MOBIL, yeah, and it's Maz here. And before we play that hot record again, let's go to the news report. And I get my younger brother to read the sports out of the paper, and he'd be going, Warhope won the local football, and I said, enough with the chores. So, yeah, stuff like that. It was a great world of fantasy. But I was an enthusiast. I was enthusiastic, you know. And when I came to this city, there was a tumult and a breakup in the family. I run away, come down from my mum, and I noticed that being enthusiastic was incredibly uncool. Like that when you're 15, going like, hey guys, what about if? Let's put a show on in the barn. Uncool, right? Yeah, no, not good. So, you know, it was the 80s. I was probably looking like I was in Flock of Seagulls, wearing lots of makeup and kind of crazy hair. I still wear a bit of makeup, but and I hid my enthusiasm away, particularly when I went to NIDA. Was that then? Yeah. And I learned a lot in NIDA, mainly history of theatre. That was great, and how to use your voice. That didn't work out so well. But I think enthusiasm. I mean, I just believe. I didn't go like, oh, gee, can the musical work? I went, absolutely it can work. And how, I sort of have a point of view about it, and then the how of it is just enthusiasm. Can you help me?
Enthusiasm.
Enthusing is the word I'm looking for.
Well, see, you got there in the end. I helped.
Don't see I'm a serial collaborator. See how we work together there?
It's
theatre
good.
sports.
What inspired your unique perspective on Romeo and Juliet?
Well, I loved Shakespeare. I had the privilege. Neil Armfield. I don't know if anyone knows who Neil Armfield. Yeah, a living treasure of this country. When I was a kid, we had a school tour in from Narrabeen, and we went to the Seymour Centre to see Shakespeare. And I had found Shakespeare fairly impenetrable to read, and I went in and. I was about 18 or something, and we were brought in school bus to see, I think it was 12th night, and we went in and the whole space was done up like Club Med, and there was a marimba band going, dun, 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 and we were students, so we couldn't have like a cocktail. You know, I had a flask, but you know, don't tell Sister de Chantal. But so we come in and da 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 and bang. Blackout, and there's a slash of white light, and it comes out and says, if music be the food of life, play on, bang, party. I don't know. 2 hours later, I went like, what was that? I just understood everything. Everything. So years later, I thought, wow, if only I could do that on film. How could I? Because I studied a lot about Shakespeare. And, you know, he played to low audiences, high audiences. Nothing in that film was in there random. I mean, he would take pop music, popular street music, and put it in his play. You know, he would start with stand-up comedy at the beginning. Gee, boy, you're fun with me. You know, there was like a comedy routine. He'd flip comedy with drama, you know. So he was my go-to place for storytelling. And I thought, I really want to do a Shakespeare, but I want to find a language that decodes it in the same way Neil Armfield decoded it for me when I was 18. So that's where it came from.
There are so many different ways to sort of attack Elvis's life on film, but I guess the pathway you sort of chose with this film is through his relationship with the Colonel. Why? Why was it that the angle that made sense to you?
Well, look, I don't think I'm making a film about Elvis in the sense that I am a great fan of the way Shakespeare would take a historical figure and explore a larger idea. Now, to me, the great cinematic version of that is Amadeus. In Amadeus, you learn a lot about Mozart. There's a guy called Salieri. You know, who's heard of him? Well, that's the point of the film. It's jealousy. The film's about jealousy. Salieri goes, God, let me get this right. I live a chaste life. I made a deal with you. You know, I become the most famous composer on the planet. And you go and put genius in that pig, and it ruins my life. And there's that great scene, I don't know if you know the movie, but he sees Amadeus for the first time, and he's trying to scruff some girl, and he's just, you know, he's like, and he walks over to the music stand, and he's just so, like, he'd heard about him, and he looks, I think it's Concerto for Woods, I think, and he looks at the notes, and he goes, no, 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 no. And he says, and I looked up to the heavens, and I said, from this moment on, God, you and I are enemies. Because he could realize in that moment that this not very nice person was a gifted genius. And that's what that movie's about. My movie is a way of exploring America in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and most particularly these two gigantuan American gestures. And one is the new. One is this kind of haphazard chaos theory of all these people jumbled up together and new stuff happens. Whether it's, you know, the Apple-like computer, or it's the confluence of popular culture out of which something new grows. And then there's this other thing called the sell. You know, the carnival huckster, the put your brand on it, the roll up, the snake oil salesman. And it can be really good, actually. It's an enthusiasm for an idea. Let me tell you, it's the greatest thing you ever, come on, you know. And when those things are in balance, that's a great thing. But some years ago, I felt that the sell, just the sheer put your brand on it, yeah, the loud, the braggadocio had got out of balance with the other part of it. And it's not just the creative part of it that represents the soul part of it. It represents the substance part of it, the humanity versus the kind of energy. One is just pure kind of energy and excitement, which if you're feeling angry as a nation or not very good, someone can come on and excite you and energize you, even by, you know, there's a line in the film, you know, the Colonel invents merchandising, and he, you know, puts Elvis's face on stuff, and he has all these badges, you know, I love Elvis. And then at some point the mum goes, hey, these ones are called I Hate Elvis. And he goes, yes, exactly. I mean, people are going to hate your son whether we profit from it or not. I mean, after all, what's hate worth if it's free? So the cell is prepared. It doesn't know any moral code. It'll do whatever it has to do to make money. And so that's kind of the underlying gesture. Now, of course, there are a lot of sparkles and good songs. You know, it's one of my shows. But, but that's the underlying idea. The ugly duckling myth is very misunderstood. Because you see, in that myth, or that fairy tale, it's not that the ugly duckling goes, gee, I'd really look like a good-looking duckling. You know, if only I had, you know, better duckling hair, I'd be hot, you know? It's that the duckling was never a duckling. There's a switch, and the wrong egg is put in the basket. And in fact, the duckling is a swan. So it's self-realization, like, who are you really? And being determined. And it segues to Elvis, because when Elvis is a kid who grows up in one of the few white houses in a black community and so on and so forth, and he's always moving, they're dirt poor, he's taking on the truck drivers' things, and he's making his own stuff up. He's basically being very, very teased and bullied. And I went through that a bit at school. And Elvis had a choice, which is he could either back away from that's who he is, and join them. You know that thing of going like, right, I better do what they all do, not just act. But he was different. He was not actually a duckling. And I think self-determination is a lifetime commitment. You have to, just when you get comfortable with yourself, say, but am I really, truly revealing myself to myself? And then you can get on with the world.
Friends, put your hands together for the one, the only, Baz Lurhmann. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for your questions.
Go see Elvis.